First of all, congratulations on both What We Do in the Shadows and its accompanying podcast, Behind the Shadows. I love podcasts. I podcast a little myself. So I was very excited to hear about it. How did it first come about for you?
Well, I started doing an Instagram show live during the pandemic because it was so hard for us to stay in touch with the fans and the audience that really loved the show. So it happened during season 2 where we couldn't have a premiere date or a premiere party. And I said, well, that's not fair. Let's have everyone at home, even though we're quarantined, we could still celebrate together. And I did a live, and I had a lot of my friends pop in. A lot of the castmates popped in, like Kayvon and Tasha and everyone. And the fans really liked it. And I was like, it's a winner, it's a one-time thing. And then someone said, well, see you next week. And I was like, what? And it's like, see you next week. That was so much fun. It's a weekly thing, right? And I was like, yes, a weekly thing.
That was my plan all along.
Yes, all along. So then I did it for the rest of the season. And then season 3 came and I partnered up with FX and we did the same thing with them. And then this season I just switched around and I was like, why don't we do a podcast? And we paired off and kind of with Straw Hat and here we are.
I mean, that makes sense that it came from a friendship moment, because I think one of the best things, the things I love most about it is it's so clear how much you guys all really care about each other and that there are real friendships there. And that's part of what makes listening to the show so much. It's not just a recap show. Like, it really is about seeing the people behind the characters we love, like, interacting, which I think is really special. What is there anything about the podcast medium in particular that appeals to you? Like, does it get to allow you to show the audience different parts of yourself, maybe?
Yeah, I think because we do a show where we're scripted, even though we do improvise, you don't get to see the actors behind the characters and the guest stars and whatnot, and their backstories. We have great guest stars this season, both on the show and obviously on the podcast, like Anoop Desai, who many people don't know, was an American Idol finalist and now plays the Gene on the show. And then we have so many people who are just celebrity fans of the show who also come on and talk to us and how much the show means to them and how much they love it, like Trixie Mattel, who's a fan, favorite, and who I'm such a fan of as well. So it's just nice to hear what the show means to them and to hear the actors who are actually part of the show, how their process happened, how they booked it. Were they fans of the show? What their favorite days on set were? So a little bit behind the stories that I always personally like to hear when you hear of your favorite shows or movies. You're like, I wonder what it was like to be on that set. And I wish there was a podcast or something about it, that tells you all about it. So here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that you have mentioned at least a few times on the show is that, there have been times where you've met fans or something and they expect you to be your character. And I think it's really cool that now they get to know Harvey. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's really special about it.
Yeah.
Was there anything about podcasting that surprised you or that you weren't expecting about it, or that you found especially challenging or rewarding?
Well, I think with podcasting, I think that since you're kind of being yourself and telling a story, it's just free to just have a conversation, to talk about a topic, and there's no formula. There's really just let's talk about this, and let's see what happens, or let's I have a question for you. I do find it that it's easier access, like internationally. You can get the podcast from wherever you are in the world, and that's sometimes not the case with a movie or a show. You can't watch it from anywhere, anytime. And with the podcast, you can, as long as you have access to some kind of a podcast format, you can watch or listen to your favorite thing pretty quickly. So I like the easiness of it all, of being international and being able to connect to fans all over the world.
Yeah, I gotcha. Like I said, I'm a pretty big podcast lover, just in general. Before you did this, were you into podcasts? And if so, which ones do you listen to?
I mean, I was and am, when time permits. I do it mostly when I drive.
Yeah.
And I drive in LA. But that really kind of stopped because I stopped driving in LA because I spent some little time in here. But I do Crime Junkie is one of the ones that I listen to.
That's a good one.
Like Crime Junkie. And I think that's the one, because she went down a rabbit hole. And I don't know why I listen to it before I fall asleep. It's the worst idea.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely someone who listens to podcasts a lot because I cannot be alone with my own thoughts.
Yeah.
Things get dark.
It's dangerous. So it's dangerous.
Podcast friends keep me on the keep that serotonin up.
And I do like the podcasts are bringing back this idea of like, that was, the original first form of, kind of broad entertainment, the radio, right. And like that's in the waves. And aside from theater, being in person, live, and on stage, radio was the way you entertain people through like storytelling. And I've heard some amazing and been a part of some amazing scripted podcasts that you can, people are like, oh, I can't wait till next season. It's like no different because it leaves it to your imagination, with the podcast, you're listening to it, and it's a storytelling vehicle, and you're like, the colors and the characters are formed in your head the way that you see them through the description or the storytelling that you listen to. So it's kind of like, it's all left to your imagination, which is really great. So I do love that aspect of it, but I do like that we can sometimes share pictures if you follow us and look at the video version of our podcast. You can see little pop-ups of behind the scenes pictures or stories, or, we have Kristen Shaw on the show, and she's lovely and wonderful. We had, we have so many guests coming up that I'm really excited about. Mark's on the show. It's such a great season for Mark and baby Colin Robinson. So I'm really excited when the cast comes over and talks.
Yeah. I never get sick of hearing that sentence. So, okay. Do you have a dream guest that you would love to get on the show someday that you haven't had yet? I know there's probably some people we don't know about yet. But
there is. There's some coming up that we can't announce yet. But if I were to say in the show and in the podcast, I have like an ultimate list of just like, top 3. But I would say right now I'm just really wanting for some reason to have Amy Sedaris on the show. And so Amy Sedaris to be on Shadows and also be on the podcast. So or would be great, because I'm a big Amy Sedaris fan. I just was watching, she did this live auction to raise money for diabetes, and all the money raised goes to research. And so I went to her auction and definitely got some pieces from Strangers with Candy just to help out our organization, and for selfish needs of me wanting to have a memorabilia of Strangers with Candy.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Harvey. It's a win-win. She would be hilarious, and I would love to hear the two of you interact. She's such a comedic genius. I adore her.
I think she's fantastic. Yeah.
So, like I said, getting to know you on the show is one of the things I think people, if they, it's great for Shadows fans, but I also think it's great for Harvey fans, because like you do share some personal things, like the stories of being bullied when you were a kid and how you developed a fear of blood on a vampire show. I mean, but I think those are kind of like one of the things that make the show really special and interesting, is like it doesn't feel so overproduced that like the humanity is out of it, And I think, is it hard for you to kind of open up like that, or do you feel pretty comfortable in doing so?
I mean, I think I have to be in a safe, or I'm in a safe place to open up. I don't usually open up like that, but because it is something that I'm the host of, and I feel like people are coming to just hang out and talk to me, and I feel one-on-one, you kind of forget that even though you are doing a podcast, you're just talking to the person, and sometimes when you are vulnerable, you do share stories like that, and I think those are the best stories because they're organic, and you felt comfortable enough to share them, because that story's been there, just never shared it really, and so it's good to like have the moment to feel comfortable enough to share it, so that's what happened organically, as opposed to using it as like clickbait or something that's like, oh, watch out for this story. It's whatever happens and comes out in the process of the interview with the guest is what was meant to come out, and that's the best way you can describe it.
Yeah, I think that's the best kind of podcast too. That one that can be spontaneous like that and can go places, unexpected places, is really great. So I know we're getting close to the end of our time here, but I do have one more question for you. And I'm taking inspiration from you as a host.
Oh.
You always like to give people hypotheticals. It's always really fun to see, like what kind of things people can come up with. But, and I love that the show is about you, but what if Guillermo hosted a podcast? What would his podcast be about, and what would it be like?
Oh my gosh, it would vary, around the gamut. Like it would just be kind of tell me about your day with your master familiar lifestyle, or what your aspirational vampire outfit would be. What is your 20-year plan, like goal, ultimate plan? How to like finance and how to money management, and he's I feel like he would run the course of just different things, and he would call in and we're like, okay, caller, listen. He was like first time caller, long time listener, and then they have Ask Guillermo or Ask Memo. Would have a segment, and he would ask Memo what he would do in the scenario, and they'd be like, you know what, he doesn't deserve you. And it's like the advice that he would give to someone is probably the self-advice he should take, and he doesn't.
I mean, that's true. That is true. I think he would have the hottest tips on how to get blood out of teak.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes, that would be a whole segment. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. This has been so much fun. Congratulations on the show. It is the series is great. The podcast is great. You are great. People are in for a real treat all around.
Well, thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
You too. I'll hopefully talk to you again soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and sign up for alerts on our YouTube page. And for the full story, visit pride.com.